Hey everybody, Chris the Old Ass Retro Gamer here, and welcome to another episode of Top 3 Tuesday. Today's topic is going to be my top 3 arcade ports. One of the reasons why people were buying consoles was because the companies that were developing them were selling the fact that you're going to have the arcade experience at home. The ads for the Atari 2600 games that were coming out back in the late 70s and early 80s, all of them were like that. You're going to play Space Invaders, it's almost exactly like the arcade. It wasn't. Pac-Man, exactly like the arcade. It wasn't. These consoles were not powerful enough to duplicate what was going on in an arcade machine. Plus, if you had the version at home, you wouldn't need to go to the arcades anymore. So, obviously, they were not going to be exactly the same. As technology advanced, consoles became more powerful, and the arcade experience actually did end up coming home. There are times when technology was not up to snuff of the arcade games, yet the companies that made these games were able to port them successfully with the technology that was available to them and made it work. Those are the ones that are the most impressive to me. I want to talk about a few of those today. So these are my top 3 arcade ports. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. In the arcade, this was just called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but because there had already been a TMNT game released for the NES, they had to label this as the second one, so yeah, it's kind of confusing, but that's why they put the arcade game in the title. For a console that was decently powerful, whenever there was an arcade port, it was never quite the same. It was always kind of dumbed down, or features were left out, or whatever, but regardless of the fact that the game itself does not look anything like the arcade game, I mean, it resembles it, but I mean, it just doesn't. Ultra/Konami did a fantastic job porting it to the NES. The music is close, the graphics close, the controls are great. The fact that this console was about a generation behind what could be done in the arcades at the time, they managed to pull it off, and I used to play this game so much because, as far as I was concerned, I had the arcade game at home. I played it all the time with my brother. I sunk so many hours into this, probably more hours playing this than playing the actual arcade game itself. That's saying something. This was one of the most popular games for the NES, at least amongst my friends back in the day when it was first released. And you know what? It's still one of my favorite NES games to this day. Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the Saturn. I'm not a big fan of Mortal Kombat 3 or Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 by extension because I was not a fan of the whole run mechanic and those pre-made combos that you can pull off. I liked being able to just string random moves together like in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 to create a combo of your own. But it was still a fun game. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like it. It's way better than Part 4. But the thing that got me the most about this was the fact that this was the game that proved to a friend's friend that the Saturn was a worthwhile console. I had bought a Saturn pretty close to the release date. It was maybe a month after it came out, and a friend of mine had a friend who was a gamer as well, and he was always shitting on the Saturn no matter what I said about it. Yeah, that's great and all, but the PlayStation does this better and all that. It was just really frustrating, and the thing that ticked me off the most about it was the fact that he never actually played the console. He was just going off the fact that he loved the PlayStation, and that was all the proof he needed. My parents and my brother took a trip to Italy, and I got left behind because I just started a new job, so I was left home by myself, so I decided, yeah, why not? I'm gonna throw a party. I hooked the Saturn up to my parents' gigantic projection TV. My friend brought his friend who had the Saturn issue over, and the moment he played my copy of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, he stopped complaining about it completely. Because this game is pretty much the arcade game with a couple of slight little stutters because of disc-based media. Virtually arcade perfect. And we played this game for hours. Every character, every sound effect, every fatality, babality, animality, friendship is in there, and it is represented exactly like I remembered in the arcade. The controls are amazing too. Even when you're not using an arcade stick and you're using just the standard Saturn 6-button controller, it works great. And again, as with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, I played this more than I played the arcade game. And through playing this all the time at home, I grew a better appreciation of Mortal Kombat 3. My number one choice might make you kind of go, what? Stun Runner on the Atari Lynx. So Stun Runner was a pretty impressive arcade game where you sat in kind of like a motorcycle shell, but you were leaning forward, kind of like one of the light cycles in Tron, and you're playing as this vehicle that is traveling through these cylindrical tunnels. And you can move up the walls, drive on the ceiling, and you're trying to collect these stars to get points. There's enemies in your way. Some of them are indestructible. Some of them you can blow up. They can take parts of your ship off, and you have to repair them at the end of a level. I played that in the arcade a lot. It was one of my favorite arcade games because it was just so fast-paced, and it was better than your average racing game as far as I was concerned, because back then I was not a fan of racing games like at all, except for when it came to Stun Runner. That was my jam. So once I was able to convince my grandmother to purchase a Lynx for me, this was one of the first games I wanted to buy because I loved that arcade game so much. But the thing was, I wasn't expecting much. I was like, oh god, this is not going to be anything like what I played in the arcade. Pleasantly, supremely surprised how close this is to the arcade, down to the audio. The Lynx is not known for having good audio, like, at all, but all the voices from the arcade game are in there. All the levels are recreated exactly like they were in the arcade. It's just a little more pixelated because you got this tiny little screen you're playing it on. Everything is almost exactly the same, and the only difference is the fact that you're not playing this on a giant plastic motorcycle. It is so much fun. It is a reason to own the Lynx. Everything I liked about the game in the arcade is right here on this tiny little card, and proves that the Lynx is not this POS everyone seems to think it is. It is actually a powerful little system. Such a great game. So there you have it, my top 3 arcade ports. This is a topic that is ripe for response videos. I mean, seriously. There are so many arcade ports out there. There is an infinite combination of ones that we could talk about. So let's see some response videos. YouTube gamer community, unite, come together. I look forward to seeing each and every one of them that you guys make. So if you do make a response video, leave the link to it in the comments below, and I will definitely check it out, as will many other people, I'm sure. So let's do this and talk about some awesome arcade ports. So until next time, and the next Top 3 Tuesday video, I am Chris, the old ass retro gamer, signing off.